Hi guys, so for the second time in 2 weeks I managed to get to the cinema to see a horror film, and unlike with Five Nights at Freddy's, I really enjoyed this one, Thanksgiving. I thought that I would, because it's a slasher film, it's just more up my alley. So this was directed by Eli Roth, somebody who I'm generally quite mixed on. Like, back in the day, I loved Hostel. I thought that film was great, but I thought Hostel Part 2 was really disappointing. Green Inferno was all right, but it left a little bit of a nasty taste in my mouth, that film. And did Eli Roth do Machete, those films? If he did, I'm not even sure what those films were trying to accomplish, to be honest. But credit to Eli. Even though I didn't go and see this film for him, he's made his first great film here since Hostel. This is really, really top-notch. This film is a hark back to those classic slasher films from the 80s, you know, and on the surface you'd think that it was trying to copy those films that take place on a certain holiday day, like New Year's or April Fool's Day, that kind of thing. But what this film more closely resembles is those old classic slashers that would begin with some kind of random accident, and then a year later a killer would pop up who wanted to get revenge for that accident on a group of people who might have caused the accident, but inadvertently, possibly. There's loads of classic slashers that followed this template. Prom Night and Terror Train and My Bloody Valentine, The Burning. There were loads of them that just did this same thing, and Thanksgiving goes for that angle as well. Interestingly though, this film is more of a Black Friday film than a Thanksgiving film. Now, we don't have Thanksgiving in the UK, so I had to look this up a little bit, but apparently Black Friday and Thanksgiving interweave sort of in terms of when these dates happen. I've heard that sometimes they can coexist on the same day, and sometimes they're like a week apart. But in this film, they're both happening on the same day or the same weekend, seemingly. But the random accident that happens at the start of this film is very much a Black Friday thing. It's caused by Black Friday. It's like this big stampede of people heading towards this department store, and there are people dying in the crush. So it's a Black Friday film. It's not technically to do with Thanksgiving, even though there is a Thanksgiving kind of flavour to the rest of the film. And I've never understood the whole appeal of Black Friday, I've got to admit. Like, I've seen the viral videos of people arguing over deep fat fryers and wrestling each other to the ground, and, you know, a bunch of people climbing over checkouts and stuff like that. I just don't get that behaviour, honestly. It's just crazy to me, but it does actually happen in real life. That's the scary thing about this film. The only time I can even remember noticing Black Friday was the year when PlayStation 5s were in short supply, and I was trying to get one, so I was nosying around, and I did hear of a few Black Friday sales possibly, but even then there was no way I was going to go to a store that I might have heard was selling PS5s and just park my butt outside like half an hour before opening time, and then along with 200 other people just charge through the glass like a herd of elephants and just completely losing my mind. It's just, I just don't understand it, but it is apparently a thing, and it does happen at the start of this movie. And I can totally understand, actually, why the killer in this gets so pissed that he becomes a killer, because when human beings are dying because of a Black Friday stampede, that might turn me into a killer as well, if it was somebody I was related to who died in that. I cannot emphasise just how good this stampede at the mall is. It's superb, and it really put me on side with this film for the rest of it. It's not like we dive straight into the scene either. As soon as the film starts, we get a good slow build-up for 5 or 10 minutes. We're introduced to a few characters. So it's a bit like an extended prologue, what we get with this film. But we know we're building up to something, we can just sense it. And when the action kicks in, it's immaculate. It's absolutely wonderful. This is the best example of this type of opening to a slasher film I think I've ever seen. And just bear in mind all those classic films I was listing earlier. The closest scene in my horror memory that I can think of to this one at the mall is probably that chaotic scene that takes place towards the end of Piranha 3D, when all the fish attack the resort and there's people dying all over the place. It's sort of like that, I guess, in how it plays out. But that scene was at the end of that film, whereas in this film, this standout scene is towards the beginning, but it just really grabs you when it hits. And there's little moments of humour in amongst all the horror as well. Like, we're watching all these people charge around and people getting knocked over and stuff, and then we suddenly switch to a shot of the security cameras, which are no longer being manned, and these security monitors, they're in black and white and they're silent, so we just get to watch the action in silent for like 5 seconds. And this really tickled the cinema audience that I was with. Like, everybody laughed at this. It's genuinely really funny. There's lots of humorous moments in this film, not enough of them to make this into a horror comedy, but just enough sprinkled throughout to make sure that you're really enjoying yourself amongst all the horror. There's a scene at a party where this guy just gives this random speech about Ozzy Osbourne, and it didn't have to be there, but the fact that it's just there, it just adds a little bit extra that didn't need to be there. And there's visual gags as well. The security monitor would be an example of one of those, but there's also a random moment where we discover this one character is keeping like a Colt Magnum in a hollowed out ghetto blaster, just in case the police come round. But this is a moment that's only there on screen for like 1 or 2 seconds, but I really appreciated it. This film feels like it's had a lot of prep and thought go into it over a long period of time, unlike, say, the other slasher giallo film I saw earlier this year, Scream 6, which felt very rushed, as if they were really trying to get it out as quickly as possible after the previous one. If kills are your poison, there's plenty to enjoy in this, from people getting burned in ovens to people getting chopped in half by giant trash compactor bins. I'm not going to spoil all the kills, but there's some good splatter in this film. It just about justifies its 18 certificate, I would say. Although if it had been a 15, I probably wouldn't have noticed with the way films are these days. Lots of twists and surprises throughout the narrative. The main twist, I've seen some people on Facebook saying that they guessed it easily, but there's always people who say that, isn't there? Whenever a film like this comes out. Personally, I didn't guess who the killer was, and I think the percentage of people who will guess it will be quite low on the whole, because there's so many red herrings that Eli Roth throws out there in this, deliberately so. There's lots of characters to consider. I just don't see a lot of people guessing it correctly. You'll get some that do, but that's going to happen. Unless you're going to make your movie like Friday the 13th Part 1, where it's impossible to guess, of course you're going to get 1 or 2 people guessing it, but I don't know why the people who guess it think that just because they guessed it, everybody else will. That's just not the case, is it? Even the credits are done well in this film. The end credits I'm talking about now. Normally, when I watch a film at the cinema, when the credits hit, I'm out of there. It's late at night, I want to get home, and maybe I'll check out the credits at a later date on the Blu-ray release or something like that. But when the credits hit in this film, I thought instantly they looked really cool. There was some good grungy music that came on for them, so I thought, these look really cool. I'm going to sit and watch these credits, and they were really good. The people filing out either side of me and stuff, and I was just sat there watching the credits. Don't normally do that, but this film even got that right. We've got a very, very rich cast of characters in this. I'm going to name far more performances than I normally would when I do a review, because there were just so many that impressed me. Let's start with the final girl, Jessica, played by Nell Verlaque. It looks like a kind of Colombian, Venezuelan type name, maybe, but this girl is really good. Like, as soon as she came on screen, I was instantly on her side. She's only a young actress, I think about 23. She doesn't even have a wiki page yet, but I hope this girl goes far, because I think she's terrific in this film. The other people I'm going to mention are all men. So first of all, we've got Patrick Dempsey, who plays a cop. You might remember him as Derek Shepherd from Grey's Anatomy, but before that, he was in Scream 3. He played a cop in that film, and word on the street is that he might be coming back for Scream 7, but I don't want to get sidetracked into a debate about who is coming back for Scream 7 and who isn't, because that's kind of a big topic at the moment in the world of horror. But Patrick Dempsey, by being in this film, Thanksgiving, you'd think he is now very open and willing to being in more horror films, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. Another name, Milo Manheim, who plays Ryan, I thought was an excellent character in this film, and even better, somebody called Tommaso Samelli, who plays Evan. This is possibly the outstanding character in the film. He's kind of like the Joker of the group, the rebel without a cause. He's always doing something a little bit mischievous in every scene that he's in, and I just thought this character was absolutely superb, honestly, really, really good. Final name I'm going to mention is Rick Hoffman, who plays Thomas Wright. He's like the head of the main family. I think he might be Jessica's dad in this film. He's the owner of the mall where the big accident takes place. This actor, Rick Hoffman, he was in Hostel many, many years ago. He played a really memorable small role. He was the obnoxious American businessman who took a torch to like this Chinese girl's face and then instantly regretted it, I think. Only a small role in that film, but very, very easy to remember because it was so, so cool, that character. And I guess he's stayed buddies with Eli Roth over the years because he's managed to get a part in this film, and he's made something out of nothing in this. Like this character, Thomas Wright, in the hands of anybody else, it would just be some really kind of bland background character you don't give a shit about. But in the hands of Rick Hoffman, suddenly it's a really good character. He's not in that many scenes, but every time he's in front of the camera, I'm just enjoying the performance. This actor should be better known, honestly. Really, really good. It's not just a high school slasher, this, I've got to say. It's a very broad church. Like, it's more of a small town slasher. Even though the main group of characters are from the local high school, that there are characters based at the local police force, at the local diner, and because of that, you never quite know where the killer's going to focus his attentions next. Maybe the mall, you just don't know in this film, so that's a cool thing. In terms of negatives, don't really have anything, to be honest. Like, there's nothing right now in my mind that stands out as being bad about this film. I think there's probably like one or two little things I might go in and just tinker with a little bit. It did occur to me that the film doesn't have an outstanding chase sequence. The thing is, this is such a great slasher film. I think that would have been the final cherry on the top if it had had an absolutely wonderful chase in there. Something along the lines of Jamie Lee and Michael Myers at the end of Halloween, or Sarah Michelle Gellar in I Know What You Did Last Summer, something on that level. We get a few little chasey type moments. They don't quite go on and become, world-class chase sequences, but it's only a small thing. And there's probably one or two other little things I might touch up about the movie, but I'm not actually sure what right now, because I've only seen the film once. I would like to get this on Blu-ray and just evaluate it a little bit more. But right now, very, very little, if anything, that's negative about Thanksgiving. Normally at this point of the video I would show you the copy of the film that I'm reviewing, but this has just come out in cinemas, so I don't have one. But let me tell you, this will be a day one purchase for me when it comes out on Blu-ray. I can't wait to own this film and watch it again. Right, let's get to the bag of terror and find out how I'm going to score this baby. So if I can get them all out, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. 4.5 bloody axes out of 5. I'm not completely ruling out going for 5 eventually. I don't think I've ever given a film 5 out of 5 immediately after coming out of the cinema. A recent film I saw at the cinema that I would rate as 5 out of 5 is The Night House. I think that film is an absolute masterpiece, but when I came out of the cinema, I was probably still thinking 4 out of 5, maybe not even 4.5. So sometimes it might take me a little while for me to register a film as being a masterpiece in my mind. Who knows if that will happen with Thanksgiving, but for now, until I've seen it again, I'm sticking on 4.5 out of 5. So there we go. Right, that's all for today. I'll be back very soon. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye, and enjoy your turkey, of course.